All right. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you are enjoying the start of your Wednesday, or if you're a little into it already, hopefully it's going well for you. Today, before we actually get into our stream of playing Path of Exile 2, they released an update for most of it's regarding the endgame, and it's not super long, so I thought we would go through it a bit today, just to kind of see like the major changes before we start playing. So let's get right into it. So for the 0.3.1, this patch contains major changes to the endgame detailed in our recent news post. Increases to the base remnant pickup range. In addition, that's good already. I like that. In addition to other changes and bug fixes. I wonder if they fixed the boss bug that we came yesterday upon. That'd be nice. So, for the endgame changes, you no longer need towers to use precursor tablets. Tablets are essentially, for those that don't know, objects that you used to be able to put into towers, and you could put up to 3 of them based on the difficulty pretty much of the tower you did, and it would affect all of the nearby maps with their modifiers. Most of them are just adding specific content, like 10 maps in range have extra bosses or something like that. Instead, tablets are now placed into the map device directly and add their bonuses directly to the map. So from my understanding, from what I've heard so far, based on the difficulty, as in how many modifiers are on your map, you can add 1, 2, or 3 tablets. I believe 3 tablets is if you have a full 6 modifiers on your map. And then those will be used whenever you launch the map. And I believe it's pretty close to 1-to-1. So for example, if a tablet said affects 10 maps in the radius, it will last for 10 uses, or something similar to that. They now have a fixed number of uses, as described by its implicit modifier. Each time you use a tablet while running a map, the number of remaining uses on the tablet decreases. Once it reaches 0, the tablet is destroyed. You can use up to 3 tablets with each map, but the number of slots available is based on how many modifiers... Oh, okay, I guess I should read first. Running a map with 6 modifiers will enable all 3 of the tablet slots on the map device. Tablets cannot be applied to areas that have already been attempted. Okay. Towers can still be used to gain visibility on the atlas, and they will also drop an extra precursor tablet as a reward for completing them. Non-unique tablets now have 10 uses, previously 12 to 18. Oh, there you go. Or in the case of the Overseer tablet, it now has 10 uses, previously 2 to 4. As your tablets are now directly applied to your maps, this means that you can now apply the content you desire to every single map you run, assuming you have the supply for the tablets. However, the ceiling of the amount of content you can apply in a single map has been lowered. So previously, you could find a location that had like 3 towers in range, and then stack potentially up to 9 modifiers on a single map. So you can't do that now. Overall, this results in a more streamlined and consistent experience, but in order to not have the ceiling come down too far, we've been buffing the modifiers to tablets. So pretty much it's just a flat buff across the board. So Bountiful instead of 15 is now 15 to 40 instead of 10 to 15. So they pretty much up the low end and really up the high end. So instead of 7 to 10 collector's value, it's now 10 to 30. So we'll not go through every single one. These are just the different names that are added to the tablets when you enchant them with the specific modifier. But I will go down here. And I'll just pause for a sec, so if anyone has a specific one you're looking for, you can pause the video or take a look, take a screenshot. And then we'll go down, I think it was at prayers. Because, like, some of these I'm assuming are, like, -30 to -20. I don't know if that's different value based off of, like, elemental resistance is going down or not. And then these are the last ones. We've added 7 new tablet modifiers. Asmiri's area contains 1 additional Asmiri spirit, which is fun. Crystallized, an additional essence. Exiled, 1 additional rogue exile, so you can have multiple, obviously. Summoners contains an additional summoning circle, which is the 3 stones that can summon a random boss. Antiquarian, which is they contain an additional strongbox. Of the devoted, additional shrine, and of the summoning. Area now has 25 to 50% increased chance to contain a summoning circle. Okay, so 1 is a direct add, and then you can add an additional percent on top of it, I guess. Okay. All maps now contain map bosses. So personally, I didn't have a problem with this, but I get why people like it. Before these changes, you used to just have to defeat all the rares in the map. It was more difficult before they added the map indicators, so it showed you directly where those rares were that you had to defeat. But they've kind of transitioned back to a little bit closer to PoE 1, where the only thing you need to do in the map is fight the boss. So if you're just trying to travel around the Atlas or something, or you're just trying to get completions, it's a lot easier because you can just, if you have a build that can do it, I guess, you can skip all of the monsters, all the rares, and just run straight to the boss, kill it, map done. So if you want to blast through maps very quickly, you can do that now instead of having to travel through the whole thing. To complete a map, you are only required to kill the boss, and you no longer have to kill any rares, and you can do as much or as little of the rest of the map as you please. The existing icons that currently indicate there is a map boss now instead signify the area contains a powerful map boss that is extra challenging, but also extra rewarding. The following map boss Atlas passive skills now require a powerful boss to be present in the map. Beyond Reality, Crystal Dream, Direct Worship, Drawn to Light, Old Pirate's Trick, and Organized Forces. So I'm assuming these are modifiers to map bosses, whether they be drops, increased health, but, you know, multipliers for, I don't know, quantity, rarity, that kind of thing. I don't know these off the top of my head yet. Map areas now generate with 1 to 3 extra random content, including Breach, Delirium, Ritual, Expedition, Shrines, Strongboxes, Essences, Wisps, Rogue Exiles, and Summoning Circles. This content will be added in addition to the content added by your tablets and map modifiers, and is selected afterward. So for example, if you have a modifier that adds an Expedition encounter, which cannot have more than 1 in an area, a different type of content is selected instead. So I guess if you have content that can only be selected once, you can actually kind of target spread those extra bonuses around. And I really do like that it's just more stuff, because the more things I can do in the map, honestly, the more fun I have personally. For me, it's not as fun just to run a single breach in a map, and that's the only reason I'm running that map. So having the tablets in addition to random content makes it better for me. Current icons for Breach, Delirium, Ritual, and Expedition have been removed from the Atlas because it's now fully random. The size of the following map areas have been reduced, which they told us about because these ones had a lot longer map completion time. I do remember, I think it was like 56 hours or something they had on the map timer when they were showing this off in the video. Penitentiary, Vol City, Channel, Bastille, Grimhaven, Epitaph, Oasis, Augury, Hidden Grotto, Wetlands, Savannah, Blooming Field, Rupture, Slick, and Fortress. So those have all been shrunk. The number of monster packs in lower tier maps has been reduced by roughly 30%. As you proceed through the tiers, the number of monster packs will increase so that by tier 15 it is the same as before. So I'm not... What's the best way of saying this? I think this is a good change because people had a bit of a rude awakening after completing the interludes, from my understanding, because the map density got so much bigger comparatively. However, as someone that was using the Flicker Strike combo build, I don't like that because now it's going to be harder to maintain the combo if the pack size and density is down. So you might actually run out of your combo counter faster, or like too fast to be able to upkeep it for the boss. So I don't know if that 30% will be enough to really impact it, but 30% is significant, so we'll have to see. They adjusted the composition of all naturally spawning monster packs in maps. This results in more packs of a smaller number of monsters, but roughly the same total amount of monsters in the map. Okay. The ground effects, okay, this was a big one people were talking about. Ground effects for the Of Ice and Of Lightning and Of Flames map modifiers now cover 75% less of the map on tier 1 to 5 waystones, 68% less on tier 6 to 10, 62 on 11 or higher. So they were just covering the entire map pretty much, almost. Like, it was very hard to avoid them when you were having those modifiers. So I definitely saw a lot of people saying that that needed to be changed, and I'm glad they did. Increased the chance of Citadel spawning by 66%, which is a huge buff. 66% is massive amount. The Visions of Paradise unique precursor tablet now adds irradiated rather than removing it. Okay. Atlas maps connected to the sealed vault can now spawn a Val beacon on map completion, which when clicked will drop an idol of Estazunti. Previously, this item was dropped from the final rare monster or map boss. Okay. Because we did maps around a vault, but we didn't get anything, so I wonder... I think I still have an area around it. Maybe that'll work then. Added visual effects to the atlas around maps near vault, sandstorms, and maelstroms to help guide players. Awesome. Because it was harder to tell because some maps were a little too far, so they didn't impact it or have a chance to have the items required to activate those specific zones, so that's good. Updated the Precursor Towers quest to end once you've spoken to Doriani after activating a tower. Fair. Updated various Doriani dialogue lines to reflect the changes made to the Precursor Towers and tablets, which makes sense. And the walking sequence from the Sacred Reservoir map has been removed. Okay. So that's the endgame specific changes. Rise of the Abyssal changes. The Well of Souls now shows a more detailed description for the type of passive skill nodes revealed. The nodes the revealed modifier options will affect. I'm not familiar with that one, so maybe we haven't received that yet. The Well of Souls now applies the resistance penalty of your highest reached act rather than strictly Act 2. Okay, that's what was throwing me off, because remember yesterday when we rejoined the area, our resistances were higher, and I was like very confused about that. So that makes sense. Icons for Abyss cracks no longer display on the edge of the minimap when out of range. Okay, that's awesome because it was a little confusing. Enabled the Eruption of Souls Abyssal Rare Monster modifier. Okay. and added Abyss to the Atlas map legend. Fair. Player changes. When calculating chance to hit versus players or their minions, we now use the following formula. Chance to hit equals 1 minus 0.95 times monster evasion, or defender evasion, divided by defender evasion plus 4 times attacker accuracy. I don't know what it was previously, but I don't know why that changed. The chance to hit formula versus monsters is unchanged. Players no longer receive evasion ratings scaling with level. Player base evasion rating is now 7, previously 27. This will result in all classes having a 5% chance to evade baseline at level 1 with no equipment. Okay, fair enough. Monster accuracy rating scaling has been adjusted slightly to account for the above changes. The base pickup radius for all remnants has been increased by approximately 50%, which is great. Just being able to pick it up faster and from a longer range is great because I don't have to dodge roll through all the enemies as much. The Stormweaver's Remnant Range Ascendancy passive now has remnants can be collected from 20% further away, previously 30%. Because I'm assuming they increased the base range by 50%, so that makes sense. It's still a buff, though. Principal Infusion Notable passive skill now has remnants can be collected from 20% further, previously 15. Okay, fair. Small passive skills that provide remnant pickup range now have values of 15% instead of 10%. Harmonic Remnant Support 1 and 2 now have remnants created by supported skills can be collected by 35% farther away, previously 100. Okay. So I don't know what the range was, but it doesn't seem like that's a buff. That seems like it's a nerf to the support, technically. Siphon Elements now has remnants created by supported skills can be collected from 14 to 38% further away at gem levels 8 to 20, previously 17 to 47. You are now unable to have more than 10 Ancestral Warrior Totems active at once. That's funny that someone was able to get that working. Because those are the ones that require endurance charges, 3 I think, to summon one, but there wasn't a limit. It's funny that they had to add a limit. Made improvements to parry's behavior to reduce the number of times it looks like a hit should be parried, but isn't. Reduces the heavy stun buildup a player gains when parrying a hit by approximately 30%. That's good, because when I was playing with MJ on our other character, I tried using parry, and from 0 parry, it immediately stunned me when a monster hit me. It was weird. But, so that should help. Also reduce the amount of heavy stun applied by monsters at very low levels. Considering that was at low level, that's awesome. The Void Illusion skill now works with Hollow Palm's physical damage modifier. That's awesome. I'm surprised it didn't before, but there you go. The plants from Vine Arrow can now only take poison damage from allies. Wait, so you don't count as like your ally or their ally? So one, I'm assuming this is to like enemies were poisoning them and giving them the bonus. But allies do not count yourself. I'm assuming it's the plant themselves that counts as its allies, so you can apply it. I'll have to see. Persistent buff skills that must be active in all weapon sets now describe this requirement, which is great. I'm assuming, like, if you know, are required for certain things. Yeah, must be active, yeah. Whirling Assault now uses pathfinding to avoid obstacles, which is awesome, instead of just, like, walking into a wall. General changes. You can now use Orb of Alchemy on magic items. When used on a magic item, the original modifiers are not retained. So it's kind of like a full Chaos Orb for magic. Yeah, because it would get rid of 3 then, because you would have your 2 from magic, or 1 if you're doing like a specific craft or something, and then it adds 1. Okay. Enabled the Ramira's Requital and Callista's Crescendo lineage support gems, which were mistakenly not able to drop before. They are now in the global drop goal. Well, that's good. Added 779 more foiled unique item options that the Twilight Reliquary can wield. That's good, because a lot of people were saying that the Reliquary keys were not worth purchasing because the chances of getting items were so low. Like, or good items, I should say. Because a lot of people added a lot of joke items and stuff like that to it. So, that's fair. Elzera the Cobra Lord in Shelkari Sanctuary now drops a one-time guaranteed Jin Barya that can now be used to obtain your 3rd set of Ascendancy points if you have not already acquired them, which is great. This will drop for new and existing characters, regardless of whether they have already killed Elzera. Hope I'm saying that right. Updated the Treasures of Utsal quest steps to be more clear for characters that were defending the Forge Master, or defeating the Forge Master in the Molten Vault after having already completed the Treasures of Utsal quest on another character of the same league. Oh. So, what was happening was people thought it was a bug because we were defeating the boss in the Molten Vault, but it said pick up the Forge Hammer, but the Forge Hammer never dropped. So I'm assuming you're only supposed to do it once. It just wouldn't. It just marked it as a new quest, maybe? I don't know. Added Jacob, the town crier, to King's March, who will update the town on your journey as you progress through Act 4. That's cool. I wonder if that means we're getting more dialogue for the, like, the different townsmen, if he is, like, well, crying out the accomplishments, or will he just be, like, a character that will shout what you've currently done or what you were doing before, which is still cool. Character panel estimations for player accuracy, armor, and evasion now use a maximum monster level of 82 for calculations, previously 84. The stash and merchant UI now remember your previously entered search terms. Awesome. Just convenience. Omen of Whittling now correctly highlights desecrated modifiers if they can be re-rolled. Which is good. More clarity. Undying Hate now has a keyworded description for unstable desecration, clarifying that preserved cranium currency items have an increasing chance to destroy the item. Updated the description of Zenith 2 support to clarify that only mana costs are recouped. Updated descriptions of freeze, electrocute, and pin build up on monsters. Oh! Zenith 2 support, I believe, was the cost of casting whatever the ability was is recouped. So I guess this doesn't work if you're using life recoup. And you... like, people thought that, you know, use life instead of mana. I don't remember what the node's called. Everything's converted to life cost instead of mana. And people were thinking, oh, I can recoup life with that. So I guess you can't. Adjusted the density and spacing of packs in the Kari Crossing and Kima. Added the salvage and reform benches to the Kari Bazaar, which was good because it didn't have it. Added the second sprint animation for higher movement speeds, which is cool. Added more appropriate crossbow reload animations for very slow reloads, which is cool, just more animations. Changed some suggested supports that were incorrect for flash grenade and lightning warp. Reduced the damage and projectile count of the Treant Foul Spawn Barrage skill. I don't think I've seen that. The Blood Thief Queen monster will no longer be tamed or bound as a specter. Oh no, really? So I think that's the large, like, mosquito-looking one that would summon a bunch of the small mosquitoes. That's unfortunate. I really liked that one. It was really good for thorn builds, because the monsters that it would summon would actually be enemies, I believe, still. So you could use it to proc your thorn stuff, which is... that sucks. It was also just a fun monster, but... okay. I wonder if it's a bug, because it says no longer, so I'm assuming this is permanent. It doesn't say temporarily or anything like that. Enabled the existing Dark Shard armor set, hood, helmet, attachment microtransactions for using PoE 2. Okay, so these ones are just Ancient Dread armor set and Primordial Dread helmet for PoE 2. Dark Shard cloak, Darkwing microtransactions, PoE 2. Solar Knight for PoE 2. Made adjustments to the audio system. This may help with audio performance, as well as some situations where audio would cut out. Improve the performance of the Overkill Explosion from the Trampled Toe unique boots. Also increase the performance of Abyss Cracks and Craters, which is great. Improve performance of Scorched Farmlands. Improve the performance in King's March, which it really needed. When we loaded into King's March, we saw a frame rate drop quite often. And Forge Hammer Aftershocks are no longer silent. There you go. Now we have a bunch of bug fixes. Preventing Fractured Mirrors from spawning in Delirium. Additional monster modifiers and unique modifiers were not applying some stats correctly, such as maximum life and item rarity. Map bosses were not benefiting from increased difficulty modifiers. Map bosses that changed form during the fight would not benefit from increased difficulty modifiers. Fixed a bug where Zolan Blood Priest would reanimate and become invulnerable if you killed them, and then they return to the arena. Okay, that's the other bug people were seeing. But that's not the infinite heal one. Because it's the other... when Zolani, like the sister, dies, he would lifesteal continuously. Fixed a bug where Ashar the Sandmother and similar bosses would leap out of their arenas. That's pretty funny. No boss for you. Crash the Dune Dweller could escape the arena in the Silent Cave unique map. Aurelian the Grand Adjudicator boss fight was not affected by map difficulty. Aveline would ignore you and continue to dance around, not fighting you on the Derelict Mansion map. Black Chromat boss would fail to transition to the second phase. Diamora, Song of Death, would fail to return to the arena after diving into the water. That's hilarious. She's like, nope, I don't want to deal with this. You could not re-enter the second arena of the final Act 4 boss fight after the fight begins. Grace period between the phase changes for the final Act 2 boss was removed too early. I never actually saw that, which is nice. Fix an issue that would prevent unique enemies from receiving the appropriate heavy stun buildup from some hits. For melee builds, that's big. Fix a bug with Ancestral Warrior Totem that allowed other totems to bypass their limit. Damage over time would reserve all darkness immediately. Skeletal Reavers in Rage would stop dealing damage to themselves if they survived long enough. That's funny. I think that was because they were dealing enough damage that they would go over the damage number limit and it would overflow. I don't know if that's the one, but there was that. Fixed a bug where Forge Hammers could could persist indefinitely if the skill gem was modified while deployed. That's funny. Prevented delirium support, or deliberation support from being able to support freezing salvo. Firestorm was still unable to inflict ignite despite no longer consuming ignite. You could receive heavy sun build from enemy hits indefinitely after being interrupted while parrying. It's not great. You could specter the Expedition Val Zealots. They are now replaced by their non-expedition variants. Fix an issue where some Act 4 monsters that were spawned by strongboxes did not function correctly when bound as a specter. Oh, thank you. Yes. So, a couple of them we got wouldn't work, and we weren't sure if it was a bug or just the strongbox ones couldn't be used that way. So I'm glad it's a bug. Triggered Living Lightning did not have the cooldown type, which prevented supportability for cooldown recovery support. Oh, okay. Forge Hammer's impact was not creating aftershocks. Forge Hammer's impact was not visually displaying when it was ancestrally boosted. Certain passive skills that granted maximum fire res were not applying to the Smith of Katava's Forged in Flame Ascendancy passive skill. Network latency could be reported incorrectly when idle, particularly at high latencies. Strongboxes did not spawn monsters in the following maps: Caldera, Cliffside, Flotsam, Rupture, Sinkhole, Stronghold, or Wayward Isle. The barrels created by the Rotting Demolitionist monster could block players, which is kind of funny. Which is, they place down the explosive and light it, and then it blows up after a duration. Fix an issue where some movement skills were not able to be used in the map, in the boss arena of the Sacred Reservoir map. Sorry, 1 sec here. Dodge roll was not avoiding curses granted by Rogue Exile's Hand of Cheula, which is big, actually. Prevented Rogue Exiles from dodge rolling. Map UI did not display the +1 to monster level from Irradiated Atlas icon sometimes. Modifiers applied to maps by the Liquid Paranoia and Diluted Liquid Ire did not display in the map area modifier list. Heavy Sun meter was not correctly shown how far through the stun the animation was. We actually had that a couple times where they were stunned, and then it, like, normally it depletes the bar to show you, but it was just like stuck at like a %, like at the bottom immediately. Target cursor aiming option would not function correctly with some channeling skills. Ignites applied to players were purple if they had the Black Covenant Keystone allocated, which is kind of funny. Checkpoints in Howling Cave are not functioning properly. Specialization books obtained for clearing the way quest incorrectly completed the world map icon for the abominable Yeti in the Howling Caves, which is kind of funny. Warrior Invictus unique body armor was not working correctly with socketed talismans. That's awesome. Thank you. More for the item find stuff, but a lot of them weren't working correctly, so, you know. Music, most notably Una's, was not playing. Skills, while mounted on a Roa when using a controller, would target the ground if you were not targeting an enemy. You could be unable to revive another player when using a controller if you had a skill bound to the revive button. We've also added an option that can be enabled to prioritize reviving over using skills. This can be found under Controller and Game Options tab. Fixed a bug where the Interact option on controller could stop working after interacting with the strongbox. Where Spirit Calculation would be incorrectly taking invalid skills into account when using a controller. A lot of controller bugs for some reason. League Migration option was hidden when using a controller. Players on PlayStation could experience crackling audio or had the audio cut out entirely. Microtransactions applied to weapons were not carrying over when that item was used by another weapon set. Light of Divinity Scepter skin microtransaction was replacing the 2D art of your equipped scepter. Visual bug with the overgrown gargoyle portal effect. An issue that would cause the client freeze when entering a new area after respawning in party play. Fix some situations where the DirectX 12 renderer would crash. Fix a client crash that would occur on PlayStation. Fixed 4 individual client crashes and 2 instance-based crashes. Is that it? Yep. So, decent amount of bug fixes. Decent amount of general player changes. I think most people in the end game anyway are excited for the end game changes, mostly with the tablets and stuff like that too. Not a lot of people had mentioned that they didn't like doing towers. I personally didn't mind them, but you know, teach their own. But yeah. So that's all the patch notes for 0.3.1. Look forward to seeing you in the game. Hopefully you enjoy the changes. Let me know your opinions, if you like them or not. Especially the tablets, towers, and most maps having the map bosses now instead of the rares. So, thanks again. And I'll see you next time. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day, whether it be morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on your time zone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.